Hi, everybody, and thanks for attending today's webinar, Product Roadmap Community Updates. My name is Raisa, and I'm on the marketing team at Progress. Before I turn it over to our speakers, I have a couple of housekeeping items to cover. If you have any questions, you can submit them in the Q&A section at any time, and they will be answered at the end of the presentation. For the best viewing experience, we recommend closing any additional programs or browser sessions running in the background as webinars are bandwidth intensive. And finally, as always, this webinar is being recorded and an on-demand version of the presentation will be available to you in next couple of days. So let's go ahead and get started. Over to you, Benny.
Hey everyone, it's Benny. Welcome. We're so glad to have you. This is obviously the first time that we have presented any kind of roadmap like this, and we're super excited to do it. This will become an ongoing presentation that we have about every 6 weeks. So the next one you'll see about mid-June. Be on the lookout for those invites. This time you're going to hear first from our head of product management, Prashant. He likes to spend his time, his free time, playing with the massive cats that you find in the jungle of India. And then after that, we'll hear from Tim, our good old bean shoes himself. And then Laura will be joining us. She's brand new to Chef, and she's just been with us a couple of weeks. She is the mother of all bees, and we are excited to have her here too. So I'll pass it over to Prashant. At the end, we'll come back for Q&A, and if there are any questions, we'll address them then. So definitely submit your questions. Go ahead, Prashant.
Thanks, Benny, for the introduction. Hey, everyone. Real excited to be part of talking and meeting with you all. Like Benny said, this is first, and many more like this is going to come in a very repeated succession. I am super excited to talk to you and share the roadmap that we have, and also introduce the team a little bit because we have a lot of new product managers, a lot of new products. So I thought it'll be good to know the names to the faces, or faces to the names, sorry, to people whom you might have been interacting on the Slack as well. And we will jump into what we did in last year, and then get into the main topic of today, which is the roadmap. Right. So let's jump right in. Before we talk about the team, I Benny, are you seeing the whole PPT, or is there something that is coming in between?
Nope, we've got it.
Is it all
just the presentation?
Okay. Yeah. So before we get into the team, it's been about 7 months now where Chef is part of the Progress family. And we are very, very excited on how Chef had gained momentum in DevSecOps and how we are able to accelerate that growth along with Progress's growth. And we are continuing to continued to support, and we are committed to our customers as well as open source community. It has been a little slow. It took us a while for us to reach out, have these kind of sessions, but rest assured, going forward, we will have more and more engagement even from the product folks. And not just in these sort of engagements, we will continue our contributions, and we will work with you all to help shape our product and roadmap. And we will be applying the resources that Progress as a larger organization brings in to build the cool products that Chef started, and also other areas where we are seeing traction on the Chef products. With that, let me give you an overview of some of my team members. I'm Prashant Najundappa, based out of Bangalore, India. I head the whole product team. Under that, there are 3 sub-teams: product management, product operations, and user experience. We have Laura with us here today. She heads the product operations. She takes care of setting up engineering development processes and also helping us with launch of product, launch of features, and uh, also understanding how the features that we have built is being adopted by our user base, and making sure that feedback comes back into our product planning and product road mapping exercise as well. And she is also in charge of idea framework or AHA ideas through which we collect um, input on how we could make our products better. And that is really one of the very important source of input for us to help shape our product roadmap. Uh, and that has in fact made a really big contribution into our the roadmap that we have till now, and we are pretty much sure that it will continue to be one of the important source. So if you all have any ideas or any things that we think that we should work on, idea portal is a great place to go submit the ideas uh, which you think we should work on. Right, and obviously the pull requests are also there with you all. We just don't have to talk about idea, but I'm sure you all have a great way to also solve that problem. So obviously that is even better. But if you want to suggest some things that we should consider for you all to enable contribute better, then we are happy to look at that and work on that as well. And Mark is our lead user experience. He leads the user experience team. We have about 4 designers in that, and they are an important part of the product team as well. And they help make our products user centric. We will have some focused engagement with you all, with Mark and his team in the coming months, as he has some cool ideas on how to revamp our automate, and he would love to get some insights input from you all. And we have Tim with us on the call. He is our product manager for Infra, and also he is one of the biggest contributor in the open source and the code base as well. He's not a new face, and we will talk. Tim will talk in a bit. I also wanted to briefly give an overview of some of the other members of the team. We have Lokesh. He heads the compliance product. And Sudarshan, he is in charge of workstation and also marketplace. We have our automate on AWS and Azure. He's currently looking at reviving them and also enhancing them. And Trevor, probably you have interacted with Trevor as well. He is the product manager for app delivery, and he also has overarching responsibility of infra, app delivery, and marketplace as well. And Nischal is the product manager for desktop. He's now doing research on how we could make that product even better. Maybe that's another topic which we want to talk about if it is of interest to you all. And then we have Ankur. He is the product manager for Automate, and that has the highest number of interactions. So he's constantly engaged with the users of Automate. Sharon joined us recently. He's looking after hosted chef, and also he's thinking about how we should bring up offering on cloud. We are thinking about that in the coming quarters. We intend to plan around a SaaS offering. So we are thinking about it, and he is in charge of that. With that, let me move into a recap of what we did in 2020. This might be familiar to many of you, but what I realized when talking to many users, while a lot of things that we did, some of the things that we did was known to um, known to a particular user base, they didn't really know about all of the things that we did. So I want to take an opportunity and bring attention to some of the topics that are highlights, and also as you see this, if there are any questions that you would like to know more about, please drop in them. We will try and answer them towards the end. Over the last year, we did. It was a fantastic year in terms of amount of work that happened. We had planned a lot of things in a thematic manner, and these are a representation of those themes. The first one is a time to value and usability. We wanted to make our product a lot simpler, easier to use, and also ability for folks to get started in a shorter time period. So one initiative that was taken under that was a unified command line interface. So Workstation and other tools now have a unified command line interface for all of our products, Infra, Inspec, and Habitat. Uh, and we have got good feedback on this, and we will continue to make this unified command line interface even better. Uh, and then another initiative that we took was YAML configurations. So we got requests from users that they wanted something simpler to get started with, especially with new folks in their organization who might take a little more time to learn Ruby or Chef DSL. So we have introduced YAML configuration in Chef 16, which is something that you can easily get started with. But if you want to harness the full capability of Chef, the Ruby DSL is obviously gives much more flexibility. So this kind of becomes the first step, and then people graduate into Ruby. We also made some of the, we made our libraries robust. We did a ton of performance improvements. So our infrastructure is not just stable, but also fast and takes fewer resources. We got VPAT certification for Automate, and we will be continuing doing that over the next few months and years as well, because that was something we want to make accessibility important, and we are committed to keeping that up to date. Right? And we also launched Upgrade Lab, which has helped our users to migrate from older versions of Chef to newer versions of Chef in a faster and an automated way. Moving on to the next theme, which is around enterprise IT requirements. This was kind of the requirements which larger organizations wanted to have, because they have needs for auditing. They have organizations policies through which they wanted Chef products to be integrated seamlessly. As part of that, we have role-based access. We have introduced role-based access control, and also we have integrated with LDAP or other identities, so that they can log into Automate through SSO. And another important thing larger organizations are looking at is traceability and the ability to audit. And they have ServiceNow has been a popular tool where they are able to do configuration management. So CMDB integration with ServiceNow is also something that we launched, and we have got really great feedback about it. And we are continuing to work on that as we get through this year as well. It was a hidden feature, and we are now making it GA. We are making sure that it works in 100 to 100,000 node deployments as well, as the as we are as that is one of the feedback that we are getting on the in terms of CMDB. And we also did end-to-end test on our stack, and we are in fact investing a little bit more on the end-to-end testing. We have a separate team right now who are enhancing our test framework as well as test suits, so that we have a great coverage with respect to the test with respect to the functional testing. That way, the features that we release are of high quality. And switching to the cloud native and SaaS, this is an area which we started off, but we are continuing to take baby steps there. We were able to complete ServiceNow integration. There are two apps in ServiceNow marketplace, one for notification and another for CMDB. These are both live, and we continue to enhance them. And in addition to that, we also are wanted to solve the premium content delivery through SaaS, which we will be working on in the 2021. And moving on to security and compliance, uh, Chef Compliance is a tool which many of you all probably are already using, and many of our customers who are using are also uh, didn't wanted to use it just for auditing, but they also wanted to make this tool the only tool that they want to use for compliance sake. So, which warranted us to bring two capabilities there. One was managing waivers, because every compliance scan, or wherever we find a flag is not worth fixing, or sometimes it can't be fixed in a time frame. So they wanted a capability to have waivers in place, so that they can come back and fix it at a later point of time, or say that we won't fix it for these reasons. So waivers are brought in for that purpose, and you could also generate reports to see what is your compliance posture, and what are the non-compliant resources which you have waived off and saying that you won't fix. And the next one is, if you wanted to fix something, how do you fix that in an automated way? And that's where the automated detection and remediation has been brought in. So we have ability to fix the non-compliant resources through cookbooks. And this was also introduced last year in a much more structured manner. And as part of that, we also introduced a host of premium content, which are CIS and STIG profiles, which help our customers to buy this content, which will help, through which they can audit all of their resources and check if it is adhering to CIS or STIG profiles. And we also have cookbooks, remediation cookbooks, with which they get out of the box solutions for the fixes that they want to do. And last one was expanding workloads. This is probably of interest to the folks who want to buy commercial licenses. But nonetheless, for information's sake, we had repackaged our products aligning to workload, that is compliance, infrastructure, app management, so that we can bundle it, we can create binaries in a way it is aligned to their specific use case. And also we could bundle any content that might be required for them to get started. Had also launched desktop and kiosk offering, which has been popular in large organizations who are already using Chef products. They are seeing that it's a seamless transition from Chef Infra and compliance to managing their laptop and desktop fleet by using some of the content that is curated and built to manage the desktop. And many of these content is also available in open source by our users. Facebook, Netflix, Uber, many of them have contributed some of the desktop content also back to the community. And with that, let's switch over to acknowledge that not all of this was possible by just ourselves, right? 2020, we had a lot of contributions from you all. So we really thank you for that. And thanks for all the contribution, love, and feedback that you all have given, without which it wouldn't have been possible for us to deliver so many cool things and continue delivering whatever we are doing right now. Uh, uh, with that, I will ask Tim to take over and talk a little bit more about community contributions and the roadmap.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Let's jump right in. I'll share my screen to go over the roadmap here. All right. And of course, move a window. All right. So we'll jump right in and start talking about some of our priorities for 2021. We already went over everything that happened in 2020. We had a ton of great launches there. Tons of new features in Automate, in Chef Infra, and Chef Infra Server. Great stuff on Workstation too. We've been doing, as always, our once a month releases of Chef Infra Client. Chef Workstation is about once a month as well. Chef Server, we've really ramped up that release cadence, and you're going to see those things continue. So we've got a bunch of work that has been going on through the first half of 2021. We are obviously starting to approach the end of that, but it's still worth talking about kind of where we've been focused. Some of these same focuses are really relevant as we go forward into the second half of 2021 and on. So these are broken up kind of how Prashant talked about. We look at them as what the product offerings are. There's a little translation there when you're thinking of kind of the open source world, if you're more familiar with the tools. Obviously, infrastructure management is Chef Server and Chef Client. Compliance is InSpec. Desktop is an offering of Chef Server and Chef Client, and then application delivery is Habitat. The bottom part there is shared platform services. That's Automate. We think that is a really important part, particularly in the commercial offering, for anyone that is being successful with compliance with infrastructure management. And you'll see more of that as we tie more and more functionality between those and make sure that we expose more data across Automate. So we'll get to that as we get into Automate. But first of all, let's talk about kind of what the priorities are. On infrastructure management, really a lot of what Prashant talked about. We have a big focus there on ease of use, getting started. That starts with Chef Workstation. We want to make sure as you install Workstation that you can get started as quickly as possible. A lot of that is documentation. A lot of that is an installation process. A lot of that is kind of that initial first hour process, making that as good as we can make it. We've done a lot of work there. There's a whole bunch that is going to continue on as well. We've also focused really heavily on product security. On the Chef Infra Server, we've released tons of updates there in terms of updating our components. On the back end, making more secure configurations out of the box, things like requiring TLS 1.2, locking down some of the web endpoints, adding additional security headers. There's a huge focus there on making sure that what we ship to you is secure out of the box. On the client, the same focus is going on there as well. A lot of work, in terms of bringing in some of the compliance functionality, but also working to make sure that we do things like storing our client.pem keys securely, not on disk. So there's a whole bunch of work there. And then the final one is platform support. Platform support is kind of a catch-all, right? We want to make sure, obviously, that we work wherever you work. That is the operating system you're on, whether that is a new M1 Mac or whether that is an ARM system in the cloud. But we also want to make sure that we detect those clouds, we detect those hypervisors, we detect those containerization technologies, make sure that we continue to support a really rapidly changing set of infrastructure that people have. On the compliance side, you've hopefully seen a really big ramp up in releases of InSpec. We've got a ton of great new functionality that's been released. I would say, particularly in the last 2 months, that team is really, really ramping up there. We've expanded that team. We're getting great new, not just bug fixes, but also new functionality for things like Docker on Windows, some SE Linux functionality that came out just this last week. But we're making sure that we actively maintain all the cloud scanning technologies there. That's outside of the InSpec core. We have InSpec projects for Azure, for AWS, for Google. And those are really rapidly changing clouds, obviously. If you've been in the AWS dashboard anytime, it's a completely crowded dashboard. That's a lot to keep up with. So we're making sure that we continue to expand into all the new technologies that Amazon and Azure and Google are developing. Part of that is making sure that we have an SLA that's published, right? As new technologies come out, people want to make sure that they can count on us to release content for those. So we're publishing our SLA. Hopefully that happens pretty soon, I believe. And that way that you can really count on knowing exactly when, down to a quarter, you'll see content for particular pieces. Part of that is the cloud. Part of that is also some of that premium content offering that Prashant talked about, making sure we have the CIS and the STIG profiles for anyone that has compliance and regulatory issues. I feel bad for you, but also that's just the reality we live in 2021. On the desktop side, like I said, this is an offering of Chef Infra Client. So a lot of this work is work that had gone into Chef Infra Client. We're working on expanding our support into Apple's ecosystem. There's been a lot of changes that Apple's introduced in the last year. M1 Max obviously is a big one, whole new architecture. We support that. We have packages for M1. We have packages for Big Sur as well, which is another big change. And part of that Big Sur support was making sure that we continue to work with the changing environment that Apple has. Big Sur and On are really Apple locking down the security in that environment, making it so you can't configure things directly from the system. Obviously really challenging for us, really challenging for anyone trying to manage those systems. Really changes how that works. For that, we're looking at integration with MDM solutions, so you can have a Chef client that also integrates with an MDM and have a complete solution there for your Mac management. On the application delivery side, again, this is Habitat for folks more familiar with the tools. We're delivering a whole bunch of customer commitments we had there. That was a lot of refactoring, a lot of core plan updates, a whole bunch of things that are kind of in flight right now. Some of that's been released. I don't know if you've seen the last few Habitat releases, just a large number of customer committed bug fixes and cleanup work there to really kind of put the polish on the product, right? We've done some great work in terms of service management and things like that, additional work in the builder UI. A lot of that is kind of getting that level of polish that you'd expect from that. And then on that shared platform services, again, this is Automate. Really kind of making sure we tie all these products together. There's a few different pieces in flight there. The big one is a lot of integrations with Chef Infra. We're looking at bringing functionality in from Chef Manage in terms of being able to actually manage the infrastructure, not just view it, not just see the reports on it. So that's bringing a lot of the Infra views functionality in. That's been released every week or every 2 weeks, I guess, that Automate is going out. You see more functionality of that. We've pretty much wrapped up the view-based functionality. There's some additional editing that is going out at the moment. You'll see policy files coming soon. Additional functionality for actually modifying nodes and viewing nodes. But that'll continue to trickle through every week or two. When those releases happen, you'll get more and more functionality there, and that'll continue on until the end of the year. So with that, let's dive deeper into each of these different offerings. This is kind of the standard slide for this deck. We'll talk a little bit about new capabilities we're looking at, features, and then break down into the actual tools within those features, since we have a product offering. That product offering is made up of a bunch of different tools. So infrastructure management, right, is our original offering. That is Chef Client, that is Chef Server, now Chef Automate on the actual control plane portion of that. And for that, we're really making sure that we have a good getting started story, ease of use story. Ease of use means a lot of different things. It's kind of a catch-all there. That is that getting started, that first 10 minutes, that first hour, first week. But that also is making sure that we have the resources that you need to do the work you need, making sure we support the platforms you're on, making sure that we can remove as many of those gotchas of that deploy as we can. And that's been a big portion of what we looked at so far in 2021. And obviously that'll continue. Like I said, we have a ton of security work going on there. Some of that is in flight, some of that has already shipped. We'll kind of go over it, a little bit of that as we dig deeper into the features. And then expanded platform support. We've added a whole bunch of new platforms this year across the board, not just on the client side, but on the server side. Additional support for server installs on Amazon Linux 2, on Ubuntu 20.04, expanded FIPS support on both client and server. We're supporting FIPS on Ubuntu, supporting FIPS on PowerPC RHEL. But we've also got on the client, greatly expanded support for ARM, not just in the packages, but also in our language and our helpers. So there's a lot of work there to make sure that we, keep up with the developments that are happening in the world. Tons of new platforms, particularly kind of Amazon's big shift into ARM has been a good one for us to catch up and race to. They're just going full speed ahead with ARM for cost savings there, and obviously the market is shifting because of the cost savings. So in terms of features, The first one here is something that we're actively working on today, and that is moving our Infra client keys outside of the disk storage. So right now you have an Etsy chef client.pem on Linux, or it's in C chef on Windows. But that client.pem, is locked down with system permissions. But for a lot of people, they don't want that on disk at all. A lot of regulatory requirements say that can't be on disk. So we're working to move that onto the native certificate stores. A little trickier on Linux. We're still trying to figure out exactly what that looks like, just because even though systemd has eaten the world, somehow systemd has not eaten the certificate storage world. But on the Mac and Windows, we have native certificate stores. We can put that in the keychain. We can put that in the Windows certificate store, and that gives you a little more secure and manageable storage system for that. We have split out Knife from the Chef Infra client packages. This is a big one. A lot of people don't want to have management tools they're shipping to all their clients. They see that as a security risk, but it's also just a package size savings. Moving all that content out of the client, moving all the dependencies that content requires out, saves us some good space. It also makes Knife easier to maintain and makes it easier for us to rev that without having to release Chef. In the past, we've had a bug in Workstation that's required us to release Chef client, even though there was no actual changes to the client, just because we needed to get a new version of Knife out to fix bootstraps or something like that. On the server side, we're doing a ton of upgrades. Some of these have already shipped. We have moved off of Oracle Java into OpenJDK, and also upgraded our Java. Ton of releases. That's obviously a really big security concern for a lot of people. Java is the land of CVEs. So we're fully up to date, and we have processes in place to keep that up to date. We've updated our Ruby quite a few times. We're also in the process of upgrading Rails, waiting on one last spec to pass, and you'll have a brand new Rails release. Part of that also unlocks us once again upgrading Ruby, which has a nice performance benefit. We're in the process of upgrading Perl. We do have an embedded Perl on the Chef server that handles the database migrations when you upgrade. We're upgrading Postgres. You can use modern external Postgres now if you start a new server. So if you spun up a brand new server, you're pointing at RDS, you can use the latest and greatest, but we're going to upgrade. That should ship hopefully pretty soon. That'll give you the ability to migrate from the legacy Postgres that's embedded right now to a brand new version. That gives us a bunch of new capabilities, but also we want to make sure that we're upgraded before that version goes end of life. Same thing for Elasticsearch. We have support for the latest Elasticsearch externally. So if you're using any of the cloud provided services, you can just point it at that for a new server. We're going to give you support a little bit later to handle the upgrades internally. There's obviously some tricks to that. Things that have to happen to make sure we cleanly migrate. All your indexes are all great and all the fun stuff that goes along with Elasticsearch. So Chef Infra server, just getting a ton of component upgrades. There's a bunch not listed here as well. Things like OpenResty, which is what's actually serving up the content. That's been upgraded as well. We're adding MTLS support for Chef Infra server. MTLS is mutual TLS. That means that not just the clients are verifying the server. That's something we started with Chef Infra Client 12. That certificate on the server gets validated by the client, checks the whole chain, just like you would when you're browsing the web, but also that the client's certificate is being validated by the server. Right now, we don't have a full client chain. When you have MTLS, you put the full chain, not just that one secret of yours, but also full validation there, and the server performs that validation. Gives you just an increased level of security. Really important if you are running these clients in places you might not trust, particularly desktop or kiosk environment where you don't have control. It's not in your data center. It's not locked in a cage. It's not in a cloud. So you want to make sure that you have some additional security there. That kind of goes hand in hand with the key storage issues. We have Apple M1 support. We're doing that. That shipped. You'll see that pretty soon in Workstation as well. Workstation does run fine on M1 Macs using the emulation. It's actually super, super fast still, but we'll have a build there as well. And then AWS S3 signature v4 support. This is a new signature format that Amazon introduced and is requiring in new regions. So if you wanted to move to some of the new APAC regions and stuff, you would need this. We will have that. This is only impacting for people who are storing their Chef server data, not in the bookshelf on disk storage, but they're using S3 to actually store the cookbooks, which is what we do in hosted. So this is kind of a feature for hosted, but there are probably a few people out there that are using that as well. And then the last one here on Chef Infra is big investment in Test Kitchen. We've done a lot of work on Test Kitchen. If you follow the project, there's been a whole bunch of new work come out. A lot of it has just been bug fixes, but really important key bug fixes to make sure that works. We're also hiring a team dedicated to Test Kitchen, which is the first time the Test Kitchen is going to have a dedicated team. So that's really exciting. We've got a whole bunch of product plans for them. We just got to get them started. InSpec is a part of Chef Infra client, so that's an important one to talk about. We shipped our compliance phase, and this is really about bringing that InSpec functionality into Chef Infra client as a really first-class citizen, right? We don't want the audit cookbook. We don't want additional things we have to manage. We don't want to have to deal with incompatibilities as we upgrade Chef. We have the compliance phase, much more native experience, and it is going to be updated as time goes on. We already have some updates going into it for 17.1 to make it even better. We're looking at what it takes to allow you to just ship your profiles directly in cookbooks, which is really great if you want to iterate on them and test them straight in Test Kitchen, which is going to be really cool. And then in Chef Automate, we have the Infra state management dashboards. So that's out today. If you update your Automate install, you'll see fancy new functionality. You can add the Chef server, you can add the orgs, and from there you can start viewing. We're going to continue to iterate on that. I think you'll see that become more and more of a seamless feature. Right now, it's kind of a place you go and you do the infrastructure management. You'll see that more just kind of meld into the infrastructure tab as time goes on, which is really exciting. All right, shared platform services. Like I said, this is Automate for folks that are thinking of the actual packages you install. A lot of the work in Automate is really about kind of giving that single view of everything. Automate traditionally has been the place where you view reports. You get your compliance reports, you get your infrastructure converge reports. We want to just make it the place where you go for your Chef infrastructure, whether that is compliance infrastructure or whether that is infrastructure itself, in terms of VMs or systems or whatnot. We want to make sure that you can just go into Automate, do it all, and that's a lot of what we've delivered there. And then making that data easier for people to understand and use. That's a lot of that is getting the data out. People want additional places to send the data. We have some functionality like Prashant was talking about, ServiceNow, the ability to have all your converges in Chef, have all your compliance data flow into Automate, be visible in Automate, but also spit that out into ServiceNow is really cool. There's some very cool stuff that people are doing with that. The ability to kind of trigger ServiceNow workflows off of compliance scan data. When you have systems that are in compliance, you can generate workloads that go to teams and you manage those. Is some pretty cool stuff. We've got some additional work there. So features, there's a bunch of these. I'm going to kind of run through them pretty quick, I think. First is that Infra server view, right, in Automate. Like I said a few times, this is a really big one for us. We want to make it so you can view and edit everything in terms of your infrastructure right in Automate. This is live. Go get it, check it out. Let us know where it works. Let us know where it doesn't. There's going to be more and more features there. And if you follow the Automate repo, you can see the PRs as they're coming. There's a bunch of edit functionality that's about to be merged. So that's very cool. We've done a lot of work upgrading components within the Automate install. Automate includes a lot of stuff, right? Just like Chef Server does. A lot of upgrades to Elasticsearch, Ruby, and some connectivity issues between the actual server, between Elasticsearch, between the Chef Infra server, if you're using the embedded Chef Infra server. A lot of functionality updates there that resolve some known vulnerabilities. We're working on getting scanning in place as well for that. Obviously, we have all the standard kind of GitHub Dependabot alerts for vulnerabilities within packages, but performing additional continuous code scans to make sure that what we're building is the most secure thing it can be. Data path is the name for how we get data out of Chef Automate. Right now, we have that ServiceNow integration. We're working on additional integrations there with Splunk and Kibana. You can get logs again of your Chef data. Using Automate kind of as the middle portion to get your data into Splunk, where you might combine it with other data. Very cool stuff you can do with that. Secrets management. This is secrets management internally for Automate, how Automate handles the secrets. As we're giving it cloud credentials, we want to make sure that is all stored in a standardized, great industry acceptable secret system. That's work that you'll see happening. Sessions management is making sure that as we have users that are logging in either locally or LDAP or with SAML, that it all just works. The sessions are handled, the logins work as expected. Data backup, this is kind of a continuous one. There's a lot of data in Automate. It's a lot of important data. We've done a lot of work in the last few releases, and there's some more work coming in terms of how we back that data up, how we have retention that makes more sense for users. You obviously don't need your data forever, and you probably don't want it forever because it's going to be a massive amount of data to have to store. So how do we selectively back that up and selectively prune data as time goes on? And then we have a few things that are coming in the second half of the year. The first one there is a simplified HA offering. This is a replacement for Chef backend. This allows us to have an HA Automate cluster, HA Elasticsearch setup, HA Postgres, all the fun HA stuff. We have that kind of as a services-based offering right now, but this is making it a more productized thing, something that customers can potentially deploy, at least without a large services engagement from us, if they have a requirement for that kind of HA offering. We're doing a refresh of our Azure and AWS marketplace instances. I think Prashant talked a little bit about that. That's making sure that you can go right into the marketplace, pay for everything through your Amazon account, just get a copy of Automate and point some Chef clients at it. Since Chef Automate includes the embedded Chef server, which is the same Chef server code base, you can just use Automate for everything. So you spin one of those up and you have a fully working Chef environment, and all the billing is handled automatically, which is always nice. And then some work on our notifications. Progress is a MS Teams company. Chef had Slack integration because we were a Chef company, a Slack company. There's a lot of Teams users out there, so we want to make sure that we can send notifications not just to Slack but also to Teams. Get that going to everybody. Pretty handy stuff, if you're in that kind of environment. And then expansions in the notifications in terms of the applications tab. So that's kind of some of the Habitat work there. On Hosted Chef, we're upgrading our payment gateway. And I don't know, that's really exciting for everybody. You can continue to pay us. There's a lot of back-end work that's happening on Hosted in terms of updating minor updates to UI, updates to the server, obviously. Hosted, to a large extent, is just running our same products. So as we make upgrades to those products, a lot of that functionality goes right into Hosted, which is always cool. So this is a little bit about some of those infra server views where we're looking at taking that. We want to move all the managed functionality into Chef Automate. This is obviously a product we don't want to maintain anymore. It's end of life. We have extended the end of life date as we really want to make sure we have feature parity between manage before we kind of pull the plug on manage. It's been a long one. It's been end of life for quite a while. The original end of life date was going to be the end of this year. It's now going to be the end of next year. That means that we will have full parity and then give you a whole year to move out of out of manage into Automate. What we've delivered here so far is a lot of read-only views. We have some edit views that are coming, but we want to make sure that we give you all the functionality you would need. Full integration of the users on the Chef server into the users on Automate. They're not the same users, obviously. There's some work there to kind of reconcile that. It's a little tricky if you think about it. A Chef server has a bunch of organizations. You may only have one organization, but you might have 1,000 organizations. Whereas Automate is a single setup. You have teams and projects and whatnot, but it's not an organizations-based setup. So we have to figure out how I link that Tim Smith user potentially to my 1,000 organization Tim Smith users, and how to make that a seamless experience for people. We have some work, in terms of node editing, editing of things like environments and data bags, policy files. A lot of that work is in flight. Some of it, I think, has been merged already. So you'll see in the next release of Automate, I think some of the first edit capabilities are going to come out, which is pretty cool stuff.
Hey, Tim, I just wanted to call out one thing. When you said parity, our commitment is to give as much functionality, bring in as much functionality as possible into Automate. But as these are different products, it might not be one-to-one parity, and it's like in the same sense. What we are aiming to is to help build functionalities so that you can solve it helps you solve the use cases or problems that you are trying to solve with manage, right? So in some cases, instead of one step, it might be 3 steps, or some cases, three steps might bring into one step. So those things are may happen, but we want to make sure that we ensure as much capability mapping, right? So you don't feel that, okay, I was able to do something on manage, which I will not be able to do in automate. We are trying to avoid that scenario.
Yep. Yeah, you probably should have said more functional parity than feature parity. We don't want feature parity, right? It's an old UI.
Yeah.
We want something better than feature parity. So yeah, expect that as time goes on, you'll see more of that functional parity there within being able to edit those. But I think particularly where you're going to see stuff that really exceeds what we have with manage is support for policy files. Manage came out before policy files. Policy files are the future. We want that functionality to be really top notch there. So that's in the works. That will come a little bit later. But first, you're going to get some things that look a little bit more like manage in terms of editing roles and environments and editing nodes. We'll apply run lists, things like that. But policy files soon. So we're going to simplify our productized HA offering. Again, this is for Automate. We want to make this as self-serve as we can get. This is giving people the ability to install an HA setup in the cloud of their choice, right? So whether that's AWS or Azure or Google, being able to deploy that out, use the services that those clouds provide as the backends in a really HA way, and then have kind of that tiered Automate setup, really similar to the legacy Chef backend, which is also end of life. And has also been extended in its end of life to December 31st, 2022 now, because we want to make sure this is right. We want to make sure this works for everybody and we can get customers onto this. This is really the future of what our HA environment looks like. So if that's something that's interesting to you, that's coming. There's some details here about what that involves. It's tricky stuff, right? HA setups are really, really hard. Easy to build, hard to make reliable. And this is kind of a view of the long-term unified experience there. So the first part we're trying to get into Automate is just the functionality of viewing your server infrastructure. Obviously, we already have the reporting data. We know every node that checks in, but we don't know like what org that came from or what the what Chef server that was under. We're adding that. That's there now. The next capabilities, and some of these are the ones that I think starting to ship next week probably, are some of the editing capabilities, editing things like those organizations, the cookbooks, the roles, the environments. And then the next part is kind of more advanced node management, things like policy files, finer control over security and things like that, making that more of a unified experience right in Automate. So you'll see this evolve. We like to ship this in the most agile way we can. So you'll see this every week or 2 weeks as Automate ships. New functionality will be available. So keep an eye out there on Discourse. We have the release announcements coming out as we ship them, and you'll get new functionality. If you have Automate set to auto update, you'll just get new functionality. You'll log in one day and it'll be able to edit something. So you should turn that on. We do have a little bit of updates on our end of life dates. I want to point out that Chef Infra Client 15 is now end of life. When we shipped 17, this went into end of life. We will continue to support Chef Infra Client 16 for the next year. It'll get bug fixes, it'll get security updates, but Chef Infra Client 15 will not get another release. 15.13, I believe, was the last one, will be the last one. Check out Chef Infra Client 17, obviously. Chef Infra Server 13, that's going to go end of life on June 30th. I really recommend everybody who's still on 13 to check out some of the great new stuff in 14. Really fantastic, getting rid of all the old legacy RabbitMQ functionality there, moving that all into Elasticsearch. We've developed a much more reliable server. The reason it's a major version bump is because there is not a migration in terms of your work, but a migration in terms of some time. I think it's a few minutes per 1,000 nodes. So potentially something that, depending on how performant your server is, that you have to actually schedule time to do that migration as it re-indexes all that new data. Chef Backend and Chef Manage, both have been extended. Those are going to go end of life December 31st, 2022. Like I was saying, we want to make sure we have that functionality in Automate for you, make sure that we have an HA Automate offering that's really top notch, and make sure that we have all that kind of edit functionality in Manage, or sorry, in Automate that kind of gives you functional parity, at least for Manage, so that folks can jump into that unified view. And with that, I believe I'm handing off here. Actually, I'm not. I don't know what I'm doing. The next one I want to talk about is chef compliance, as I forget exactly where I said I was going to hand off. Chef compliance, the capabilities there that we're really looking to offer. A lot of it is premium content. I will clarify there, right? This is not open source content. There's a lot of work on the engine that enables some of that content, a lot of work happening on Inspec. The last few releases of Inspec have been pretty huge in terms of new functionality that we're offering there. But a lot of what we're working on is really actively maintaining that cloud scanning, expanding that functionality to match what's happening in those clouds, and then getting that SLA out there, right? We want to have an SLA so it's really predictable release cadence for us. Part of that is this second half commit. We're working on some auto generation of some of our CS and STIG content that really makes it something that we can get into that regular, more agile cadence, get out of kind of a quarterly waterfall setup for that content. And then a lot of that functionality that's going into Automate, the data path functionality is really a huge enabler for compliance. I think that's where that's the killer use case there, right? Seeing nodes that fail CIS or STIG benchmarks and being able to kick them off into ServiceNow or kick that data off into Splunk and do with that what you will, right? Generate tickets, inform teams, make people responsible for kind of remediating that if you don't want to do it automatically. Obviously, we have a lot of remediation content as well. So if you want to do that automatically, that's even better. What this looks like over time, right, is making sure we have the premium content that has been shipped now. We've done a ton of updates to that recently. That's part of our kind of detect, correct, automate. We have not just content to detect, but also remediation content in the form of some inspect content, some cookbook content. We want to strengthen that. That's more what you'll see there in terms of that cloud content offering, increasing the coverage there. That's some private content. That's some public content we have. That's work on both private clouds and also public clouds, right? AWS, GC, all that stuff. And then, some work later, there is some expansion, making sure that it's really easy to get started with that, making sure we can distribute that content to you more easily over a SaaS offering, and then bringing, additional coverage capabilities to the market there. A lot of this, again, is about the content because that's kind of the killer part. Inspec will continue to get updates, obviously. In fact, they'll get even more updates because we need additional capabilities in Inspec to really enable some of this content. This is what that content roadmap looks like in terms of what we delivered and what we are delivering. There's a ton of stuff, right? CS and STIG are huge. You need them for each platform. You need them for different databases. You need them for different operating systems. We're doing a ton of work there. If you're, a paid customer, you'll continue to see updates here. Teams there are super ramping up to get that content out as quick as possible. And now, really, I'm gonna hand off.
Thanks, Tim. I realize that we just have about 5 minutes, Penny. Do we do Q&A or do you suggest we complete the rest of the deck?
I'd say it's up to you. Folks will probably stick around as long as they can. And if we have stuff that we want to cover, then we probably should.
So maybe I'll skim through a couple of slides. With desktop, I think Tim covered some of it already, as most of the work for desktop was actually built in Infra and compliance. So we brought in MTLS and M1 support. We also are in the process of integrating with an MDM solution so that whoever our customers who are using, and even any other users who are using desktop with Big Sur coming in, they are impacted. They are not able to implement some capabilities without an MDM. So we want to bring it as part of our core offering itself. And then switching to app delivery, also known as Habitat. Here we are revamping the core plans. I think that's the biggest effort that we are, that's the biggest focus we have. A lot of our effort is going on to that. And we also are making bootstrapping easy to manage. And sometime in second half of this year, we are thinking about bringing support to Habitat, as there is a continued shift to focus in industry towards ARM. We are evaluating if we want to bring that support within Habitat, with which we can enable edge based use cases or IoT based use cases where ARM chipsets are the base there. And we will be continuing to work on accessibility. This is important for us and for our users, so we will continue our compliance to WCAG, and also make sure that whatever features that we build on, we keep accessibility as one of the definition of done for for this whenever we build that. And then this is kind of a stretch goal. We hope to bring uniformity in our design language. Right now, different tools speak different design language, which makes it difficult to use. Is an understatement though, but we want to make sure that it is we harmonize it and we make it consistent across the products. And that way, switching between one interface to another interface is just a URL switch, but not in terms of mind map switch. I think we touched upon most of these things. So in interest of time, I'm gonna just recall that or call out again that we would love to stay connected with you all. So like Penny said, every 6 weeks we will come meet with you. And if there are any specific topics that you are all keen on, we could learn about that and focus the discussions. Otherwise, the way we are thinking is to bring a product in focus and have an interactive session about that particular product. Potentially automate is the one which we are thinking about, as we are bringing in infra server views into that. That might be an interesting topic for many of the community users as well. So we want to bring that in and get talk more. But if there is any other topic that you want to you want us to bring and talk more, please do let us know. And we will start more and more participating in community Slack, and make sure that we are connected to you all and get your feedback, and also help encourage more activity in the community. With that, I'll pause and we can move to the questions.
Awesome. You can stop sharing if you want.
Yeah.
Tim and Laura, if you want to join us, we've got a ton of great questions. I'm very excited to see so much engagement. If you, for anybody that's watching live, if you have questions, drop them in the Q&A. If you aren't able to stick around, this recording will be available, like Raisa said, so you can find the recording and then skip to the end and couch any questions that you miss. First question, we are going to, it was in the chat earlier and I pulled it into a note. For Elasticsearch, is that self-hosted, meaning on-prem or cloud, or is it hosted by Elasticsearch?
Yeah, so right now, when you're talking about an Automate installation, you're using the embedded Elasticsearch. The Chef Infra server is the same thing. So they both have, single node Elasticsearch setup. The HA is obviously moves us more into a multi-node, but also we really want to make sure that you can integrate that with the cloud providers' Elasticsearch, right? Everybody's got their Elasticsearch offering. I don't know if we're supporting where was it? Where'd it go? ECK. I don't know if we have any plans for that, but there is a plan to get onto the latest version of Elasticsearch and make sure that we support upgrades. If you spin up a brand new server, you can point it to Elasticsearch in the cloud,
Awesome.
latest versions, but we want to make sure we can upgrade you in your existing installation to a new version.
Awesome. There was another question around that. How do you define HA Elasticsearch setup? What does that mean for us? I
am not an HA expert, but as far as I'm aware, like what we're really talking about there is multi-node. Right now, when you deploy Chef Automate, you have out of the box, right? Automate. It's a pile of microservices. It's like 30 microservices. It is designed to be split out, but it is not split out. It's all in a single system, right? So single Postgres, single Elasticsearch. For most people, that's fine. For most people, they're totally okay with that. Some people want to have a clustered Postgres setup and a multi-node Elasticsearch cluster. So
cool. How do you envision the automates editing fitting in with the pipelines and GitLab hooks?
I think they're kind of different things, right? And they're different. Historically, we put a lot of emphasis on not using the UI, and that's kind of why you didn't see an effort put in from ops code even into Chef, now in progress, in that UI, because we wanted people to use pipelines. That's not a thing that everybody wants, right? Also, people want to just be able to view the state of the nodes, which you can certainly do with knife. You can knife node list, you can knife node show, you can do all that stuff. Some people just want to see that state. Other people do want to be able to edit it right in the UI. Where that integrates into pipelines and approval processes and kind of the gates that you would see in larger enterprises, not defined yet. Certainly a thing that I think is really interesting, right? Getting it all into that single UI really unlocks a lot of potential for us, where we can take that product and build out things like, hey, I want to make an edit and I want it to force some sort of approval process to a person that's also in Automate, or I want to make this edit as a proposed edit, take it through a pipeline, test it. That's not something we have planned at the moment, but there's a lot of cool stuff you could build with that.
Where does having Chef Infra and Automate as a single server / product deployment fit in the roadmap?
Yeah. Tim, you want to take that? Or
I can take that, sure. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we see people installing Chef server now, right? That's Automate is the hub of that infrastructure setup you have. There's not really a reason in 2021 to need to install a standalone Chef server unless you want to do that. You can certainly scale it that way, right? Put them on 2 different servers, but there's no need to do that anymore. You can just select that as a feature. Again, the cool thing about Automate by the design is it was built as a series of microservices. The Chef server itself is kind of also, somewhat a series of microservices. It's several services that run there. We just bundle those into Automate and run a few more services and like poof, single server. The nice thing I think about doing that is that automatically sets up some of the interactions between Automate and Chef server. A great one is some of the compliance phase stuff. When you send compliance data to the Chef server, it just automatically goes to Automate. That setup is done for you as part of that. You don't have to set up that proxy functionality. You don't have to configure it like that. I think what we'll be able to see in the future is some of that additional tie-in between the Chef server and Automate in terms of Infra view and stuff, making that easier by having in the embedded Chef server. So.
Agreed. Cool. Is there any appetite to support to look into supporting multi-region cloud-based HA offerings for our banks?
Yeah. So Ben, if the question was a SaaS, I'm assuming you're hinting at a SaaS or SaaS deployment which spans across multi-region. Or if that is the case, that is something that we're thinking about. But if you're talking about hosting Automate in a HA mode across multiple regions, for example, on AWS, East, West, or zones within East, That is something which we are thinking of building in near future as part of the A2HA initiative that Tim touched upon. We want to simplify deployment and also have ability for multi-zone highly available on AWS, Azure, and Google.
He said he's talking about within his own corporate network.
Okay. So that's possible technically once you have it, but as the deployment model within your organization is something that is governed by you, the tool at some point, like maybe in 2 to 3 months, we will have ability to deploy automate in a HA mode in different regions too. And that should be possible for you to deploy through the tools and documentation that will be made available.
Cool. I think we're going to take one more question, and then just in the interest of time, we're going to cut it off. The Chef package for RHEL is still an EL7 package, which Quali's complains about. Any plans to release a native EL8 package?
Joe. I was not aware that Qualis was complaining about that. That's good to know.
I didn't either.
We do have the power to do that. Kind of, a little bit of like inside the making of the sausage here is that we build a package for a platform. We build it on a single platform, and then we test it on a number of platforms. And by platform, I mean like a number of RHELs, right? So we build on RHEL 7, we test on RHEL 7, we test on RHEL 8, but we use that same package, which has some great, obviously, cost-saving advantages, time advantages, but it also makes sure that those packages are literally like exactly the same. Windows is the same way, right? We test on the lowest Windows or we build on the lowest Windows and test on all of them, which you might have noticed. The SHAs are all the same. If that's something that Qualis is having issues with, it does come up from time to time. You'll see that like on the Amazon packages are really just RHEL packages, because guess what? Amazon Linux is just RHEL 7. That is something that I would say probably raise a support ticket, and we can figure out what we have to do. It's probably a change we can make. I don't see why not.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks Tim Prashant for doing everything and talking for another hour to our people. Everybody that has attended, also you'll get an email following up with an invite for the next one, so that you make sure that you can catch that one, and we'll talk about all of that stuff. We'll make sure that you're involved in all of those, so you can keep coming back. If you have questions, you know how to find us. You can track us down on community Slack or anything like that. And we will look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.